The massive alien fleet drifted helplessly through the dark void of space. 50,000 civilians from various species huddled in their ships, watching their power systems slowly fail one by one. The fleet's admiral, a tall figure with silvery skin, stood motionless on the command bridge of the lead ship, staring at the emergency broadcast controls. "We have no choice," the admiral said to his crew. "Send the distress signal to all frequencies." The signal went out, spreading across the stars like ripples in a pond. Most advanced civilizations were too far away to help. The only inhabited system within range was a small blue planet, home to a species that had barely reached the stars. Earth. Captain Reed Anderson was finishing his morning coffee in the control room of Earth Space Station Alpha when the alert came through. At first, he thought the computer was malfunctioning. The signal strength was unlike anything he had seen before. "Sir," called out the communications officer, "you need to see this." Anderson walked over, his coffee forgotten. The message was clear, though it came in an unfamiliar format. A refugee fleet carrying 50,000 lives was stranded in space. Their advanced drive systems had failed, and they were losing power to their life support systems. "How far?" Anderson asked, his voice steady despite the shock. "Just beyond Mars' orbit, sir. They're caught in the outer debris field." Anderson checked the locations of all Earth rescue ships. By pure luck, 3 of their newest vessels were docked at the station, preparing for a routine patrol mission. They were the only ships close enough to help. "Get me Earth Command," he ordered, already planning the rescue mission in his head. The response from Earth Command came quickly. Despite humanity's relatively new status as a spacefaring species, they couldn't ignore a cry for help. Anderson received emergency authorization to lead the rescue mission within 30 minutes. As the human rescue ships approached the alien fleet, the size difference became apparent. The alien vessels were enormous, like floating cities in space. The human ships looked like tiny fishing boats next to ocean liners. "This is Captain Reed Anderson of the Earth Space Corps," he transmitted. "We received your distress call and are here to assist." There was a pause before the reply came. "This is Admiral Vix of the Galactic Council Fleet. We appreciate your response, Captain, but our systems are far beyond your technology level. We merely need you to relay our position to more advanced civilizations." Anderson could hear the dismissal in the Admiral's voice, but also the fear hidden beneath it. "Admiral, with respect, the nearest advanced civilization is 3 weeks away at their fastest speed. Your message indicated you have less than 4 days of life support remaining. We may be your only option." Another pause, longer this time. "Captain Anderson," the Admiral's voice had changed, becoming more formal. "We have 50,000 civilians aboard these ships. Our quantum fold drives have suffered a catastrophic failure. Our emergency landing systems are non-functional. How could your vessels possibly help?" Anderson smiled slightly. He'd expected this reaction. "Admiral, sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones. Request permission to dock with your command ship. I believe we should have this conversation in person." The docking process took nearly an hour. The alien ship's automated systems struggled to adapt to the human vessel's primitive design. When Anderson finally stepped through the airlock, he found himself in a corridor that looked like something from a distant future. The Admiral and his staff were waiting. They were tall, elegant beings with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer in the ship's lights. Their expressions were hard to read, but their body language showed clear doubt about the humans' capabilities. "Welcome aboard, Captain," Admiral Vix said. "Though I fear you've come a long way for nothing. Our technical problems are beyond your understanding." Anderson nodded respectfully. "Perhaps, but we humans have a saying, you never know until you try. And right now, Admiral, trying is all we've got." He pulled out a simple tablet computer, primitive by the alien standards but reliable. "Now, let's start with the basics. Tell me everything about these quantum fold drives of yours. We may not be able to fix them, But there's always another way to solve a problem. The Admiral looked at the tablet, then at Anderson's determined expression. For the first time since the crisis began, a small flicker of hope appeared in his silver eyes. Chief Engineer Marie Thompson stared at the alien engine room in amazement. The quantum fold drive took up an entire deck of the massive ship, its crystalline structures pulsing with a faint blue light even in their damaged state. She had never seen anything like it before. "As you can see," said the alien engineer beside her, his silver skin reflecting the emergency lights, "the quantum matrix is completely shattered. Without it, we cannot generate the fold field needed for propulsion." Marie walked around the huge engine, her boots clicking on the metallic floor. While the technology was far beyond her understanding, she recognized something familiar in the way it was built. All engines, no matter how advanced, followed certain basic principles. "Can you show me your backup systems?" she asked, making notes on her tablet. The alien engineer's expression shifted in what she guessed was confusion. "We have no need for backup systems. The quantum fold drive is perfectly reliable under normal conditions." Marie stopped writing and looked up. No backup systems at all. "Such redundancy would be primitive," the alien engineer said. "Our technology is far too advanced to fail." Marie thought about the dozens of backup systems on even the smallest human ships. They might be less advanced, but they never assumed anything was too perfect to fail. That's when an idea started forming in her mind. "Captain Anderson," she called over the radio, "I need you and Admiral Vix to come to the engine room. I think I have an idea, but you're not going to like it." When Anderson and the Admiral arrived, Marie laid out her plan. "We can't fix your quantum drive," she began, "but we might be able to do something else. Our ships use fusion engines, much simpler than your technology, but extremely reliable. If we link all three of our ships together and modify them to work as one unit, we might be able to generate enough power to tow your fleet." The Admiral's eyes widened. "Tow us? Like primitive cargo ships?" "Exactly like that," Marie said with a smile. "Sometimes the old ways work best." Anderson stepped forward. "How long would it take to modify our ships?" "With help from their engineering team, maybe 48 hours. We'd need to strengthen our hulls and create a new power distribution system, but the basic principles are solid." The alien engineer made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Your fusion engines are children's toys compared to our technology. The power requirements to move even one of our ships would be—" Marie interrupted by projecting a series of calculations from her tablet. "I've done the math. Your ships are big, but they're designed for quantum space. In normal space, they're actually quite light for their size. 3 fusion engines working together should generate enough thrust." The Admiral studied the calculations, his expression unreadable. "This is incredibly risky. If it fails, if we do nothing, you'll lose power in less than 4 days," Anderson reminded him. "Sometimes the biggest risk is not taking one." The Admiral turned to his engineer. "Could their ship's power systems interface with ours?" The alien engineer looked offended. "Technically, yes, but linking our advanced systems to their primitive technology would be like using a rope to pull a stranded vehicle," Marie suggested. "Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best ones." After a long moment, the Admiral nodded. "Begin the modifications, but I want our engineers involved in every step." Marie was already heading toward the exit. "Wouldn't have it any other way. In fact, I'm counting on it. Your knowledge of your ships combined with our experience in improvising solutions might be exactly what we need." As they left the engine room, Anderson fell into step beside her. "Think this will really work?" Marie shrugged. "The math checks out. But more importantly, we have something these advanced aliens seem to have forgotten." "What's that?" "The ability to think outside the box," she said with a grin. "They built their technology so perfect they never planned for it to fail. We built ours knowing it might, and that's why we always have a backup plan." Anderson smiled. Well then, Chief Engineer Thompson, you better get to work. We've got 50,000 lives counting on that backup plan. Marie nodded and headed off to begin the modifications. Behind her, she could hear the alien engineer beginning to ask questions about human fusion technology. Maybe they were finally starting to understand that advanced didn't always mean better. Commander James Walker sat in the pilot's seat of his rescue ship, studying the massive debris field that surrounded the alien fleet. Chunks of rock and metal filled the space around them, making any movement dangerous. The alien sensors were useless here. Too much interference from mineral deposits in the asteroids. "This is impossible," the alien navigator said from the seat beside him. "Our systems cannot map a safe path through this field. The quantum scanners are giving conflicting readings." Walker smiled and pointed to the front window. "That's why we're not going to use your fancy scanners. We're going to do this the old-fashioned way, with our eyes." The alien looked shocked. "Visual navigation. That's prehistoric." "Maybe," Walker agreed, "but it works." He switched on the ship's basic radar system, which showed large objects but wasn't affected by the mineral interference like the aliens' more sensitive equipment. Sometimes simpler is better. He opened a channel to Captain Anderson. "Sir, I think I can plot us a course through this mess, but we'll need to do it one ship at a time. The good news is, once we map the route, we can guide the whole fleet through." "How long?" Anderson asked. Walker did some quick math in his head. 4 hours to map a safe path. Maybe 6 more to guide everyone through. We'll need to use our old mining beacons to mark the route. The alien admiral's voice cut in. "Your pilots intend to fly through this debris field using only visual contact and primitive radar." "Yes, sir," Walker replied. "It's how we started space mining before we developed better sensors. These conditions. This is Tuesday for an Earth mining pilot." There was a long pause before the admiral spoke again. "Very well. But I want one of our navigators on each human ship." "Wouldn't have it any other way," Walker said. He turned to the alien navigator beside him. "Ready to learn how we do things down in the dirt?" The navigator straightened in his seat. "I will observe your methods." Walker began to pilot the ship forward, his hand steady on the controls. The debris field loomed before them like a maze of spinning rock and metal. Most pieces were small, but some were the size of buildings. "Watch and learn," Walker said. "First rule of visual navigation: always have 3 escape routes planned. Second rule: trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is." For the next hour, they moved slowly through the field. Walker pointed out visual cues, the way light reflected off different materials, how to judge the spin of objects, how to spot natural paths through the chaos. The alien navigator stopped making dismissive comments and started taking notes. "There," Walker said, pointing to a particular pattern in the debris. "See how those rocks are moving? There's a current there, created by gravitational forces. We can use that to our advantage." The navigator's eyes widened. "You can detect gravitational currents by watching debris movement." "Sure can. It's not as precise as your quantum sensors, but it works in any conditions. That's the thing about space. It doesn't care how advanced your technology is. Sometimes it just wants you to pay attention to the basics." They continued through the field, dropping beacons to mark the safe route. Other human pilots followed, each with their own alien observer. Slowly but surely, they mapped a path large enough for the refugee ships to follow. By the time they reached the other side, the alien navigator was looking at Walker with something close to respect. "I must admit," he said quietly, "I would not have believed this possible without seeing it myself." Walker grinned as he began plotting the return route to guide the first refugee ship. That's the funny thing about humanity. We're at our best when people tell us something's impossible. He opened a channel to the fleet. "Path is mapped and marked. Ready to begin escort operations." He turned to the navigator. "Now comes the really fun part, guiding ships the size of cities through this obstacle course." The navigator's expression shifted to what might have been a smile. Perhaps you could teach me more of these visual navigation techniques. Sure thing, Walker said, already moving to intercept the first refugee ship. Lesson 2. How to read the shadows in space. Pay attention. This one's important. As they began their return journey, Walker couldn't help but notice how the navigator leaned forward, watching intently as simple human skills proved their worth among the stars. Dr. Thomas Mitchell stood in the alien medical bay, surrounded by technology that looked more like art than medical equipment. But right now, none of that beautiful technology was working. The power shortages had shut down most of their advanced healing systems. Another power fluctuation, announced the alien medical chief, her silvery skin dulled with exhaustion. We've lost the tissue regeneration chamber. 3 more patients need immediate care. Thomas opened his basic medical kit, the same kind used in remote areas on Earth. Show me the patients. We can help them without the fancy equipment. The alien doctor looked at his simple tools with doubt. These are physical instruments. We haven't used such things in centuries. Sometimes old school is the best school, Thomas said, pulling out sterile bandages and suture kits, especially when the power goes out. They walked to the first patient, who had a deep cut from falling debris. The alien's blood was blue, but Thomas had dealt with stranger things in emergency rooms on Earth. Watch, he said to the alien medical team that had gathered around. He cleaned the wound with antiseptic, carefully stitched it close, and covered it with a special bandage. Simple, effective, and needs no power to work. The alien doctors watched in fascination. One of them stepped forward. But without the tissue regenerator, how will it heal? The same way humans have healed for thousands of years, Thomas explained as he worked. The body knows what to do. We just help it along and prevent infection. Over the next few hours, Thomas and his human medical team treated dozens of patients. They set broken bones, cleaned wounds, and even performed emergency surgery using local anesthetic. The alien medical staff watched and learned, amazed by how much could be done with such basic tools. Your methods are surprisingly effective, the medical chief admitted as they treated a young alien with a broken limb. We've become so dependent on our technology that we've forgotten these fundamental techniques. Thomas showed her how to make a splint using simple materials. That's the thing about human medicine. We keep the old knowledge while learning the new. Every human doctor starts by learning these basics before touching any advanced equipment. A call came from another section of the medical bay. An alien child was having trouble breathing. Their atmospheric regulators were failing in that section. Our respiratory support units need more power than we can provide, an alien doctor said frantically. Without them. Thomas pulled out a manual respirator from his kit. Then we helped them breathe the old way. Here, let me show you. As they worked to stabilize the child, Thomas explained each step. The alien doctors learned quickly, their initial skepticism turning to interest as they saw how effective these primitive methods could be. You humans, the medical chief said later, watching Thomas teach her staff how to check vital signs without electronic sensors, you never forgot the foundations of medicine. We thought that made you backward. But now I see, it makes you stronger. Thomas smiled as he showed a young alien doctor how to use a stethoscope. It's not about being advanced or primitive. It's about using the right tool for the situation. Sometimes that's a quantum scanner. Sometimes it's just careful hands and basic knowledge. An emergency alert sounded through the ship. More sections were losing power, and with it, their atmospheric controls. They would have more patients soon. Ready for another lesson in old school medicine? Thomas asked the alien medical team. To his surprise, they nodded eagerly. The medical chief stepped forward. Teach us everything you can, doctor. Our people's lives may depend on these basic skills. Then let's get to work, Thomas said, opening his medical kit once again. Lesson 1. How to diagnose problems using just your eyes, ears, and hands. Trust me, This knowledge has served humanity well for thousands of years. As they prepared for more patience, Thomas couldn't help but smile. In trying to help these advanced aliens, humanity was teaching them something valuable. Sometimes the oldest solutions were still the best ones. Lieutenant Emma Rodriguez stared at the sensor readings in horror. A massive solar storm was heading straight for the fleet. Under normal conditions, the aliens' advanced shields would easily protect them. But with their power systems failing, they were as vulnerable as paper in the wind. "Time to impact," Captain Anderson asked, his voice tense. 40 minutes, sir," Emma replied. "The storm is moving faster than expected." The alien admiral's voice came through the communication system. "Our shield generators are down to 15% power. The evacuation pods," he paused, "they won't respond to commands." Emma looked at the massive alien ships through the viewing window. 50,000 lives. No working shields, no escape pods. Her mind raced through possible solutions. "Captain," she said suddenly, "what about the mining ships?" Anderson turned to her. "What about them?" "The cargo holds," Emma explained, pulling up schematics on her tablet. "Mining ships are built to withstand intense radiation and solar activity. Their holds are protected by the heaviest shielding we make." Understanding dawned on Anderson's face. "How many people can we fit?" Emma's fingers flew over the calculations. "If we use all 3 ships, strip out all non-essential equipment, maybe 12,000. Not enough for everyone. But better than nothing," Anderson finished. He opened a channel to the Admiral. "Sir, we have an idea. It's not perfect, but it might save some of your people." The Admiral listened to their plan. "Use cargo ships as emergency shelters." That's all we've got," Anderson said firmly. "Your shields are failing. We have 35 minutes. Make a choice." There was a moment of silence. "Very well. Begin the evacuation." Emma took charge of the operation. She had run emergency drills before, but never with 50,000 panicked aliens and only minutes to work with. "Listen up," she broadcast to all ships. "We need to move fast and smart. Each human ship will handle designated sections. Follow your guides. Bring only what you can carry. Move." The next 20 minutes were organized chaos. Human crew members guided aliens through airlocks and passages. Engineers stripped cargo holds down to bare metal, creating space. Medical teams set up emergency stations. 20 minutes to storm impact, the computer announced calmly. Emma coordinated from the command center, redirecting people as areas filled up. The aliens were scared but orderly. Their children were evacuated first, then the elderly and injured. "Lieutenant," called one of her crew, "the magnetic interference is affecting our airlock seals." Emma rushed to check the readings. The approaching storm was already causing problems. "Switch to manual override, like we do in the mines when equipment fails." The crew moved quickly, using hand cranks and mechanical locks. Old technology, reliable technology that didn't care about magnetic interference. 10 minutes to impact. They had managed to evacuate almost 15,000 people, more than Emma had thought possible. The cargo holds were packed, but the mining ship's life support systems were handling the load. "We can't save everyone," she reported to Anderson, her heart heavy. But the Admiral's voice broke in. "Perhaps we can. The storm gave me an idea." He explained quickly. The aliens' remaining shield power, spread across all ships, wasn't enough to protect any single vessel. But if they redistributed all power to create a shield tunnel between their ships and the human vessels. "A shield tunnel?" Emma asked. "Like a protective corridor?" "Yes," the Admiral said. "Your ships can extend their mining shields to help maintain it. Together, we might save everyone." Emma ran the numbers. It was possible. Barely. But they had no time to test it. 5 minutes to impact. Anderson looked at Emma. She nodded. "Sometimes you had to trust your gut." "Do it," Anderson commanded. The next few minutes were a blur of activity. Shield power was rerouted. Mining shields were extended to maximum. The evacuation continued through the makeshift shield tunnel, protected by a combination of advanced alien technology and sturdy human engineering. 1 minute to impact. Emma watched the last group of aliens hurry through the tunnel. The storm's edge was visible now, a wall of deadly radiation approaching fast. "Everyone's in," she reported. "Shield tunnel holding." As the storm hit, Emma thought about how two different civilizations, forced to work together, had found strength in their differences. Sometimes the best solutions came from combining the old and the new, the advanced and the basic. The storm raged outside, but inside the protected ships, 50,000 aliens and their human rescuers waited safely for it to pass. The solar storm had passed, but they weren't safe yet. Chief Engineer Marie Thompson stood in the alien engine room, surrounded by both human and alien engineers. They had survived the storm, but now they faced another problem: how to move the fleet before their remaining power ran out completely. "The quantum fold drive is still beyond repair," the alien chief engineer said, pointing to the darkened crystal structures. "And now we have even less power than before." Marie walked around the drive, thinking hard. She stopped at the point where the quantum crystals connected to the ship's power system. Something about the connection looked familiar. "These energy transfer points," she said slowly, "they remind me of something." She pulled up images of the magnetic tether system they used for space mining on her tablet. "Look at this." The alien engineers gathered around. The human tether system used magnetic fields to pull heavy loads. It was simple technology, but reliable. "The principle is similar," one alien engineer admitted, "but our quantum system operates on a completely different level of physics." "Does it?" Marie asked. She pointed to the basic energy patterns both systems used. "The scale is different, but the underlying principle of energy transfer is the same. What if we combine them?" The alien engineers looked skeptical, but they were listening. After the success of human solutions during the crisis, they were more willing to consider primitive ideas. "Explain," their chief engineer said. Marie brought up more diagrams on her tablet. "We can't fix your quantum drive, but we might be able to use what's left of it. If we connect our magnetic tether system to your quantum field generators." "Impossible," one alien engineer interrupted. "The power differences alone would create a new kind of propulsion," Marie finished. "A hybrid system. Not as fast as your quantum drive, but faster than our engines alone. And more importantly, we have everything we need to build it right here." Captain Anderson, who had been quietly listening, stepped forward. "How long to put it together?" Marie did some quick calculations. 6 hours to modify our tether systems, maybe another 4 to connect them to their quantum field generators. If it works, the alien chief engineer said, "it would be the first successful fusion of human and alien technology." They brought the idea to Admiral Vix. The Admiral studied the plans carefully, asking questions about every detail. Finally, he looked up. "The risk is significant," he said, "if the connection between our technologies fails." "With respect, Admiral," Marie said, "we're already in a worst-case scenario. Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from taking chances." The Admiral nodded slowly. "Begin the modifications." The next 10 hours were a blur of activity. Human engineers stripped down their magnetic tether systems, while alien engineers modified their quantum field generators. They worked side by side, each learning from the other's methods. "Your approach to engineering is interesting," an alien engineer told Marie as they worked. "You focus on making things work rather than making them perfect." Marie smiled as she adjusted a power coupling. Perfect is the enemy of good enough, especially in an emergency. Finally, the hybrid system was ready. They had connected the human magnetic tether system to the alien quantum field generators, creating something entirely new. Energy flowed between the technologies in ways neither side had seen before. "Power levels are stable," Marie reported, checking the readings. The magnetic field is synchronizing with the quantum generator. The quantum field is responding, the alien chief engineer added. It's actually working. Everyone held their breath as they activated the system. The huge alien ship shuddered slightly, then began to move. It wasn't the smooth, instant movement of the quantum drive, but it was faster than conventional engines. All ships showing forward momentum, Anderson announced. We're on our way. The alien engineers stared at their displays in amazement. One of them turned to Marie. This shouldn't be possible. Our technologies are too different. Marie watched as the combined human and alien engineering teams continued to monitor and adjust the hybrid system. Maybe that's exactly why it works. Sometimes the best solutions come from combining different approaches. The Admiral's voice came over the communication system. Well done, everyone. It seems we all had something to learn from each other. As the fleet moved steadily through space, Marie couldn't help but smile. They had done more than save 50,000 lives. They had proven that progress didn't always mean moving forward alone. Sometimes it meant working together and combining the best of both worlds. 3 days after the crisis began, the refugee fleet approached the safety of the nearest alien outpost. Captain Reed Anderson stood on the bridge of his ship, watching as the massive space station came into view. Its elegant spiral design made it look like a silver flower blooming in space. Quite a sight, Anderson said to Admiral Vix, who stood beside him. Indeed, the Admiral replied. Though I find I'm seeing it with different eyes now. He turned to face Anderson. Your people have changed many of our assumptions about technology and progress. A hybrid propulsion system had worked better than anyone expected. The combination of human magnetic tethers and alien quantum technology had created something entirely new. Already, engineers from both species were studying the implications. The Galactic Council is waiting to speak with us, the Admiral said. They're very interested in what happened here. Anderson nodded. He'd expected this. Saving 50,000 lives was bound to attract attention. The main screen activated, showing a panel of diverse alien beings. They looked both impressive and slightly uncomfortable, as if they weren't quite sure how to handle the situation. Admiral Vix, the council leader, spoke first. Your report is remarkable. You say these humans, with their limited technology, managed to save not only your people but your ships as well. With respect, council leader, the Admiral replied. I would question your use of the word limited. What humans lack in technological advancement, they make up for in creativity and adaptability. Dr. Thomas Mitchell stepped forward. If I may, council leader, what we discovered during this crisis wasn't just about saving lives. It was about the value of keeping old knowledge while embracing new technology. The human medical team had continued treating patients throughout the journey, teaching alien doctors their techniques. Already, several alien medical ships had requested training in basic human medical practices as a backup for their advanced systems. Commander Walker joined in. Our pilots navigated the debris field using skills that date back to Earth's first space missions. Sometimes the old ways work when new technology can't. Lieutenant Rodriguez added, and during the solar storm, it was the combination of our different approaches that saved everyone. Neither of us could have done it alone. The council members whispered among themselves. Finally, their leader spoke again. Captain Anderson, your people have demonstrated qualities we did not expect from a young spacefaring race. We would like to offer humanity a place on the Galactic Council. Anderson smiled. Thank you, council leader. But before we accept, I want to be clear about something. We're not interested in abandoning our ways to adopt your technology wholesale. What worked here was the combination of our different approaches. Mary Thompson stepped up. The hybrid drive we created is just the beginning. Imagine what we could accomplish if we worked together, combining the best of both our technologies. The council leader looked surprised, then thoughtful. You wish to maintain your simpler methods. Simple doesn't mean wrong, Anderson said firmly. We've learned from your technology, yes, but you've also learned from ours. True progress isn't about abandoning the old for the new. It's about finding the best solution for each situation. Admiral Vix addressed his fellow aliens. I've seen these humans work. Their greatest strength isn't their technology level. It's their ability to adapt, to think differently, to find solutions where we see only problems. The Council would benefit from such thinking. The Council chambers fell silent. Finally, the leader nodded. Perhaps we have been too focused on advancement for its own sake. Captain Anderson, we accept your conditions. Humanity will join the Council as equals, bringing their own unique approach to the stars. Anderson looked around at his crew, at Marie with her hybrid drive, Thomas with his medical skills, Walker with his piloting expertise, and Rodriguez with her crisis management abilities. Each of them had proved that humanity had something valuable to offer. We accept, Anderson said, and we look forward to showing you that there are many paths to the future. Sometimes the best way forward is to remember where you came from. As the council session ended, Admiral Vix turned to Anderson. You know, when we first sent that distress call, we thought we were reaching out to primitives. Instead, we found teachers. Anderson smiled. Maybe that's the most important lesson of all. Never judge by appearances. You might just miss out on exactly what you need.